Alright, this is the Chapter 9 team test. So first thing we had to do is kind of get the system of inequalities from this one. So our main goal is to just get these two lines and find those equations. So I'm going to start with the quadratic one. That one seems a little bit trickier, even though that was kind of the last thing that we did. So to get this, we want to find our zeros. We got one right there. We got one right there at 6. And we're going to use our zero product property. So we know that x is 4 and x is 6. So the zero product property says I want these both to be equal 0. So minus 4, x minus 4 equals 0. Minus 6, x minus 6 equals 0. So then we just multiply these two factors together. X minus 4, x minus 6 equals 0. And then if I want, I can use my boxes to get this into the sum instead of the product. Now if you just had the product, that's fine. As long as we got kind of this x minus 4, x minus 6, that was okay. But since we look, we don't want an equal sign because we've got, first of all, we got an inequality, so we got to pick one of the inequality signs. But we've also got this dashed line. So that means that we can't actually use that boundary, so we don't want any sort of equal sign. We know that here we're going to shade above it. Okay, so if we're going to shade above it, let's see, I want my y on the other side because we need y to be then greater than my function. So this is the first thing I've got. So that's this parabola and the shading from above that. So the next thing I got to do is I got to get this piece, this nice line right here. Well, over here I've got my b, I've got my y-intercept. So b is equal to negative 7. But then I need to get my slope. Well, I know this point is 0, negative 7, so I've got to find one more point somewhere. And if we look, it looks like we kind of cross right here at 4, negative 2. So what we can do is we can use our slope formula, change in y over change in x. So to get from negative 7 all the way up to negative 2, I had to go up 5. To get from 0 all the way to 4, I had to go over 4. So my slope is 1.25. And again, you can leave it as the fraction. 5 over 4 is good. But that's my slope. 1.25. So now I've got y equals mx plus b. 1.25x minus 7. But again, since we've got this shading, we don't want to just leave it as an equal sign. We do have the solid line, so we do want the little equal sign, but we can check, we can shade down. So we want y is less than or equal to 1.25x minus 7. So if I wanted to make it look nice, my system of inequalities would be y is less than or equal to 1.25x minus 7. And y is greater than x minus 4, x minus 6. So I can get my system that way. Question 2, we just wanted to go ahead and plug these numbers into our equations here. We're going to figure out if it can actually be at some of these places. So if we know that Neptune has to be below the path of the moon, we can kind of check to make sure that that's true for these ones at first. So we've got the moon equation, so that's this one right here. And we're going to check it out. So we're asking, is 14 below means we'd have to be less than. So is 14 less than negative 0.52 squared plus 4 times 2 plus 8. So if this is true, we're okay. If it's not true, then we're kind of out. But this is our first check to check the moon one. So we can go ahead, we can kind of see what we get. I know 2 squared is 4. 4 times a half, well that's 2. So we get negative 2 plus 8 plus 8. 14 is less than 14. Well, that's not true. So we can say that that one's out for sure. And our justification would be not below moon. It's right on it, but it's not below it. So it can't be the first one. So we'll try the same thing with the second point. So we'll ask, is 10 less than negative 0.5, 4 squared, plus 4 times 4, plus 8? Well, 4 squared, that's 16. So that gives me a negative 8. 4 times 4 is positive 16. And that's just a regular 8. Well, those two will become 0. So we're asking, is 10 less than 16? Yeah, that works out. Okay, so far so good. So that one's still in the mix. So I gotta try my last one then. So we got 6 and 12. So we'd say is 12 less than or equal to negative 0.5, 6 squared, plus 4 times 6, plus 8. So 6 times 6 is 36, half of that is 18, so that's negative 18. 4 times 6 is 24, and then I've got another 8 right there. Well, let's see, so the difference between those is 6, 6 plus 8 is 14, so 12 is less than 14, so that checks out. So I'm done with my moon equation. So now I just need to double check with the comet equation. So the comet says it needs to be above the path of the comet. So this time we're going to be a little bit different. So my comet equation is just a line. So I'm going to go back to point 2 and I'm going to try the comet equation. So I'm going to ask, is 10 above, so this time now I need it to be greater than, negative 4, because I got negative x, plus 16. So is 10 greater than 12? No. It's not. So that doesn't work out because it's not above the comet. Alright, well I got to plug it into the last one just kind of to double check to make sure, because it's possible that it could be at any of them. So we'll go ahead and we've got a 12 and a 6. So is 12 greater than negative 6 plus 16? Is 12 greater than 10? Yes, it is. So this one works out because it's greater than the comet, above comet, and below the moon. And for my justification, I can just kind of circle my two things right there. On the back, we had to get 11 burritos from Chipotle. So we got a nice little Chipotle menu with all the prices. So we need 11 burritos, and we've got $74.50. So we want to find out the number of steak burritos we can buy with this. Well, if we look over here at steak burritos cost $7.20. Well, I only have $74.50. So that number's got to be less than or equal to $7.20 for a steak burrito times the number of burritos I have. So we can do a little dividing. $74.50 divided by 7.20, and we get 10.34 is less than, 35 is less than or equal to x. So I could only buy up to 10. So far so good. I can get 0 to 10 steak burritos. So I can't buy all 11 steak burritos. But the problem is I need to buy some veggie burritos also. Now if we did this for the veggie burritos, I got $74.50. Again, is less than or equal to, my veggies are $6.50 a piece. $6.50x. And when I divide these ones, find out I get 650, 11.46. So if I wanted to, I could buy all veggie burritos. That's okay. But I could only get up to 10. But if I only got 10 steak burritos, it turns out that I don't have enough money left over to buy another veggie burrito. So we have to kind of figure out where we get this magic number from. So we can do guess and check. That's usually a good strategy, is to say, alright, well, let's say I only wanted to buy 5 of these ones. So that would be 720 times 5. And so that would be 36. And I also need to add 11, then that would be 650 times, well, I need 6 more burritos. That's 6. That gives me 39, and that's $75. So that's still too much. So, but I'm pretty close. So we could continue to guess and check this way, or if we look, we can kind of develop a pattern here, where these numbers have to add up to 11. So if I wanted, I could make this 720x plus 650, 11 minus x. Now if we wanted, we could do a system of equations where we would say that the steak burritos plus the veggie burritos had to equal 11. And then we can get our same prices over here. We can do a substitution. But we're going to run with this. So we know that this amount has to be less than or equal to our $74.50 that we have to spend. So this is the inequality we really need to solve in order to figure out how many of these burritos we can buy. So we'll do distributing. So distributive property right there, 6.5 times 11. So we get 7.20x plus 71.5 minus 6.5x is less than or equal to 74.50. I'll combine my two like terms, so I get 0.7x plus 71.5 is less than or equal to 74.50. And I'm going to subtract my 71.5. So 74.50 minus 71.50, that should come out nice and even. So I get 0.7x is less than or equal to 3, divide by 0.7, and we get x has to be less than or equal to 4.3. So that means we could only have at most 4 steak burritos. So the number of steak burritos goes from 0 all the way to 4. So that means the number of veggie burritos would have to go from, well, if I have 4 of those, I need 7 of these ones. If I have 0, I need 11. So those are my two different inequalities. On this one, I gave full credit if you just got to just the number of steak burritos, the 0 to 10. So if you said x was less than 10, and over here if you just said x was less than 11, because you did use the 11 from the context of the problem, and you also used the 74.50. So those were good answers if you just kind of stuck with x is less than or equal to 10 and an x is less than or equal to 11. Those I gave full credit for. Those are good answers too. But if you want to go kind of the full route, you totally can. I totally recommend it.